Hi guys, it's Joey. I'm feeling a little bit better today, so I thought I would make a video about warrior energy and specifically to do with Morrigan, but you can apply this to any sort of warrior deity, warrior path. And it's a video I've been meaning to make for a little while and I haven't felt quite in the right place to make it. I'm still not 100% in the right place to make it, but I really just want to get a few of the key things out there. And there's been some interesting developments, particularly with regards to this in the sort of blog sphere world. I don't actually publish my own blog, and I'm thinking that's maybe something I should do, especially for eventually when I'm trying to get my book out there. That might be a worthwhile thing just to get my writing about a bit more. But anyway, so I might be a bit like that this video. I haven't completely got a script down. I've got some ideas and some pages and things like that I want to make sure I cover. And you can see I've got my hair shoved up because it looks crazy. It looks quite nice up, so it's staying up. And it's also very interesting that the blog over there has a picture of Morrigan with her hair just like this, which I didn't realise until after I started the video. Okay, so the warrior aspect of the Morrigan. And I'm going to start off with the fact that the warrior aspect is something that is equally well known about Morrigan and is often perceived as really, really negative. It's the part that people have the most trouble with for some reason. And I think it's actually because within society we are actually at war with our own natures. We try to make human beings fit into a nice, clean, well-socialized box. And the outbreaks of violence all over the world are just sort of examples of the fact that this isn't working. And we have to acknowledge that there is violence within everybody. Even the most peaceful of people have to come to grips with the fact that humanity and human beings in their psychology, to be in balance, have to acknowledge that there is violence within us all. There are different degrees of violence, and what that violence is and how it manifests is hugely different. But we need to stop trying to sort of sanitize human beings completely. I agree that whilst, we have to regulate our behaviour, we have to find appropriate outlets for that behaviour, and we shouldn't really be taking huge amounts of pleasure or any pleasure in physical violence against other human beings or other living beings. There are different outlets to allow aggressive and violent behaviour out in more positive and confined, really, ways. So depending on your interests, of course, you could channel warrior energies into certain places, such as exercise, health and fitness, or that sort of physical hobby. And anything that comes of that, like running, if that's not really a hobby, but it's something you could channel your emotion into. And then I've known people who have gone into things like martial arts and things, thinking it would dispel some anger, and it actually ends up teaching them a lot more, because martial arts is what I consider to be one of the purest forms of warrior path. It's something I would love to do, some form of martial arts, and I've always wanted to do it and haven't been able to, and I just nowhere nearby here does it. Don't know why. Not close anyway. I'll have a look into it actually. Because martial arts has all this sort of teachings and sort of when to apply and not to attack, but merely to defend self and things like that. And there's a whole ideology there. I don't know enough about it to discuss it at length on video, but I know that it exists. And I didn't get any water. Oh, that was smart. Okay. There are other forms. I play video games. I play a lot of video games and I enjoy it thoroughly. It's my main hobby outlet. Yeah, I'd probably say my main one. And some video games are really, really violent, as people well know. And I really, really detest the whole argument about, you know, when you have, oh, he played violent video games, so therefore he had learnt and went out and did it in real life. Plenty of people who are playing video games don't go out to hurt people in real life. It's the same argument that you can get into with porn and stuff like that. It's a whole huge subject of whether it makes people better or worse, and there are, you know, points on both sides of that argument. You know, for example, because they have these things available to them, they don't go out in real life. So because people have violent video games, it's like a release, it's a race of adrenaline, it's all those things, and then they don't go out and do something worse, or don't let the anger or frustration or violence within them build up. And that's something that never goes away. They seem to associate video games and things with young men, and then are surprised in the rising of, say, gang violence within women, like female gangs. I remember reading about that maybe a year ago, maybe two, about this alarming rating, and it was so against the very nature of what women should be, and you just think, and this is a key point actually, often we try to disassociate femininity from aggressiveness, from warrior spirit, like somehow women are less warrior inclined than men. In the Celtic realms, this was considered nonsense. The Celtic women were considered vicious warriors, and some feared them more than the men. Women have a higher threshold for pain. Childbirth, etc. being, I mean, you can see all over the internet right now is like men being forced to live with the pain of childbirth, go through it, and how they react, versus women who have a higher threshold to pain. I think there's biology involved in that. Don't quote me, I'm not 100% sure, and yes, it's something I should have looked up. I've not been very well, and I really do want to get this video done. I've got one of our raven feathers. I've got enough for a bird over there. They've been appearing all over the place. So the point of this, of course, is that this ties in directly to female deities such as the Morrigan and others who are negatively perceived because they are warrior goddesses. The idea of what a warrior goddess in modern times is, I'm going to be flinging my raven feather around, you have to forgive me, sorry, of what a warrior goddess is in modern times versus ancient times has of course evolved and changed and isn't the same then as it is now, but it's interesting to see how perceptions have changed, even though we're in a more modern age, and why that is. A lot of the myths were recorded by monks outside of the Celtic path, and they encouraged a negative view of Morrigan because their stereotypical woman was one who behaved herself, you know, quiet, and the sort of Christian ideal woman, mother, gentle, quiet, well behaved. So they attached labels to Morrigan, like, you know, bloodthirsty. And a lot of the art still represents that. There are some people who go down that path even further to represent the Morrigan in all of her sort of warrior-ness, because they're so determined to be so fiercely proud of that and of their own femininity that they feel the need to go right down that bloodthirsty imagery, symbolism path, or maybe even within their own self. You know, there are two sides of this, how to argue with about balancing warrior and femininity. One is the whole, there are female police officers, soldiers, modern warriors. I've said before, and I'll say again right now, I can't discuss that at length because that's not my life choice. Excuse me. This is what happens when you get too warm and you don't have water. So I can't discuss that, but I can discuss the other side of it, which is to reclaim the idea of the fierce female warrior spirit. And I've known some really strong women and not so many strong men. I've known some strong men, but I've seen women who have been through hell and they pull everyone around them out with them, and I consider myself to be one of them. And this is why I am interested in and following the path of the Morrigan, because it is about embracing every inner battle you have ever been through, conquering it, getting up, and thinking of it as having a different viewpoint, thinking of your life in a different terms, realizing that you can be a warrior without being a physical, aggressive person. So I had some definitions of warrior which were quite interesting. One who is engaged in or has experienced battle. One who has engaged either aggressively or energetically in an activity, cause, or conflict. So eco-warriors is quite frequently used within the narrative. And then there are different versions. The person who has experienced war. A person who has shown great vigor, courage, or aggressiveness, as in politics, a political warrior. There was this one within the Urban Dictionary that I thought was poor, and I'll explain why. Men and women that are fearless, strong and skilled fighters, not skilled, so that are grievously lacking in modern times. So I'm going to go with that for now, because that shows problems with the whole idea of what a warrior is perceived to be. So fearless is the first problem I have with this. Men and women that are fearless. No person of a sound mind, in my opinion, is fearless. Everybody has something that they fear. And it's not about not fearing things. It's not about being without the emotion, because becoming without emotion is one-stop shop to psychopath. Being with fear is learning to conquer fear, to battle fear, to overcome fear, to accept it as a natural reaction and part of you, and overcome it. Warriors within human path, just as within how we perceive goddesses or gods, but Morrigan specifically for my purposes, are not without fear. They are not without emotion. It's just embracing strength, embracing the idea of conquering things around you, of your own path, things that you want to achieve, overcoming your own fears within every aspect of your life, if that makes sense. Strong and skilled fighters. There is something to be said for strong and skilled, although I think disciplined is better. Disciplined and skilled, and then again we have to look at how we perceive strong, because if we perceive strong as only within the realms of the physical, forget it. People think of warriors as just being big, beefy men and women, sword in hand, slashing, blood, gore, all these really negative images, and it's so not what the warrior path is often about. Often the whole point of a warrior path is to find inner peace, to be so skilled, to be so disciplined, to know when to defend oneself and when not to apply force. And there is this complete chaotic perception of what a warrior should be, which is so wrong. So wrong. That are distinctly lacking in modern times. All those men and women who are soldiers and police people out there must be completely lacking in modern times. I understand why some people take issue because I understand that there is this idea that there was this more honourable system of a warrior in combat than there is now. And I've fallen prey to this perception myself, and in some ways I can understand it completely. When I was studying history, I was never interested in modern history, and like the invention of the modern war machines and guns and tanks and planes and dropping bombs on people seemed to me to be the most dishonourable form of warfare that there is. That's not to say that people who are out there fighting with guns aren't, brave, because, they could die just as easily, and more easily, possibly. But, excuse me. Growing up, there was I'm going to have yawning on my pictures on it. Growing up, I had, it was something more, like, it took more to overcome fear to be in hand-to-hand combat, to face your enemy, than it did to just shoot someone with a gun. I mean, they talk about how guns make idiots feel more powerful, and it doesn't take anything to like that, but it takes more of something to physically injure a person. I don't know, I've never physically injured a person. I don't particularly want to. As far as I'm concerned, some sort of martial arts would be enough. But I enjoy that idea of martial arts, of the whole contact, the whole physical releasing of energy through martial art, of learning to use your body as a tool that way. I think there's something to be said for the way that you sort of channel your energies into that sort of thing. And I channel my energies currently into the cross trainer, and every morning for a little while now. I've lost a fair bit of weight, I've got some more to go, but I'm getting, I've been doing 30 minutes every morning on the cross trainer unless something terrible happens. Yesterday I did 10 minutes and my tooth went. So I did 40 minutes today. And while I'm doing that, I honour the Morrigan. I say in my mind or whatever that I'm honouring her warrior spirit while I'm doing this, because it's the physical exertion. It's like embracing the warrior spirit in exercise, like I talked about earlier. So I think within modern times there are modern warriors. There are people who fight for all sorts of things, and that doesn't make them any less of a warrior than back in, say, Celtic times when there were whole cattle raids. It's just a different way of life. We have modernised, we have technologised. I don't know how you would say it properly. Brain's not on. Not fully. And these definitions, by the way, are all available on dictionary websites. There's another one here. A person who has shown great vigour or courage. And that is something I think that we can all understand and all realise, that at some point we've had to play the role of the warrior. We've all had to, well, not everybody. Here's a nice quote. Here's a quote from William Wordsworth. Who is the happy warrior? Who is he that every man in arms should wish to be? It is the generous spirit who, when brought among the tasks of real life, hath wrought upon the plan that pleased his boyish thought, whose high endeavours are an inward light that makes the path before him always bright, who, with a natural instinct to discern what knowledge can perform, is diligent to learn, and in himself possess his own desire. That's nice. That sort of goes into my point a bit, that not every, but most people who have faced down something difficult, and you know when something's difficult, okay? We were heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching, life-changing, blows everything else apart out of the water type situation. There are people who happily glide along and never ever have to sort of face down these sorts of things. Lucky them. For the rest of us, at that point is when you had to engage with warrior. You had to defend yourself. You had to look after those around you. You had to find the strength to overcome obstacles. And obstacles is something which is floating around at the minute in my pattern of thought, maybe. And I put my status up this morning. I will read it to you on Facebook. Come on, Facebook, work, please. Obstacles are always there. Learn to climb, learn to leap. Even if you fall, you can dust yourself off, pick yourself up, and try again. Blade over shield, shield over arm, arm over heart. Now that's something I say quite frequently within my workings within Morrigan. That's something that came to me within my workings with her. Blade over shield, shield over arm, arm over heart. And frequently I talk about shields rather than blades. The shield, to me, is the true warrior's weapon. In modern imagery, think of Captain America. I watched Captain America last night again. And again. But that's the idea, the modern image of a modern warrior, with the shield to protect rather than the sword or gun in modern age. So think of the differences, okay, it's between a shield and a sword. You can defend yourself with the sword, but it's not a good idea because you're going to hurt someone. Possibly you. So the whole notion of this saying is, think about the imagery, okay? So, blade over shield, shield over arm, arm over heart. And it's basically warrior stance. So it's the crossover. To protect ourselves with the blaze, to protect ourselves with action, with fire, with fierceness, with the sort of cutting of things that no longer serve. Shield goes first as we cut ourselves off from things that we no longer need or no longer serve us. Shield is next, underneath this, to protect everything on the inside. Arm goes over because it's underneath the shield, and the arm is the strength, and then over heart to protect your heart. It's something that I use, it's something that means something to me, so I'm sharing it. So the final thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, because I've sort of covered negative associations of female deities being warrior deities. I mean, the thing is I could talk at length about that, and we're already 23 minutes in, so I want you to go have a look if you haven't, or if you are interested in the Morrigan, at darkgoddessmusings.blogspot.co.uk. Is that the right one? Oh, that's not the right one. Go have a look at that one. Understanding the Warrior Goddess. That is Stephanie Woodfield's blog site about warrior energies, and it's fantastic. That's not the one I meant though. She got a mention anyway. The one I was thinking about is k3m.blogspot.co.uk, and I will put it down there. I'll put them both down there. She had a symbol of Sarah O'Connor from Terminator near her Morrigan altar, and there were people thinking that she worshipped Sarah O'Connor and completely missed the point of symbolism and an idol rather than being the actual goddess, and it being symbolic of something, the modern warrior. I will link you to her page. But the idea behind this, apart from the fact that some people seem to be far too literal in their understanding of things, is how we perceive warrior in modern versus ancient, and how it is appropriate. Now, strength and strong women, and you can find it in the media now. Sarah Connor is a good example. I mean, they had the TV series as well recently. Oh, stop it. And it is interesting that she came under fire for having a modern image of what a warrior should be in modern times, rather than it all being these sort of ancient statues and things as if that's what a warrior should be, not what it should be in modern times. And I think this is exactly the point that I want to get across. We have this completely messed up perception of what a warrior is. To me, warrior isn't bloodthirsty, ripping heads off, or this, that and the other. There is this image of that from another time, and just because these goddesses were associated with another time doesn't mean they haven't evolved the same way that human beings have. There are appropriate outlets for warrior energy. There's appropriate ways of reconsidering warrior energy within psychology and everyday life, rather than what we perceive from, say, the Celtics, cattle raiding. It doesn't happen anymore, so why can't we move past that perception of what a warrior should be? So that's going to be it for my video. I hope I made some measure of sense. I'm still not 100% well, but I did want to make the warrior energy video, and many blessings.